What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and in today's episode of the Super Smash Brothers and Platform Fighter tutorial series, we are going to be going over Sudden Death Part 5. So we can come into the game here, select our character, select our stage. So in the previous episodes of Sudden Death, we had gone over determining if there was a tie and if the characters should be brought into the next area and which characters should be brought into the next area. Now I'm going to do a similar thing, but in a much better method. So we'll move these characters here. So STB, the green STB character, has 1 point. And now if I can figure out the right input for this, the yellow default character also has 1 point at this time. Now we will wait for the timer to run out, and these characters should be brought to sudden death, just like we saw before. And you can see that worked. That was beautiful. That's what we want. It's even better than before, because what we were doing before was destroying the entire actor of the characters that were not involved in sudden death. We're not doing that now. We're using a better method that I'm referring to as elimination. We don't want to destroy them and get rid of all the details, all the data about that character, but we do want to be able to proceed the match without them being able to intervene in anything or actually take a part in the fight. Now, of course, I can defeat my opponent and they won't spawn because it is sudden death. Everything is good here. Now there's another condition though that wasn't really supported properly in the previous episode, and that is if all the characters tie. So I'm going to start a game, not going to move anyone. Once time runs out, I'll show you that. You can see sudden death was initiated and all the characters were brought along as they should be. We have one other case to test, and that is if we win a match without going into sudden death. So here we are one more time. And this time I am going to defeat a character with one other character. So let's take default green here, and they will eliminate default yellow. So I will have them damage them. And they will go self-destruct. And there we go. Now we're going to wait the timer out. Now we've gone to the match over screen with the winner being the character that scored a point. So all of our cases are working with our new system, and this new system is a lot better than the original system where we were just flat out destroying our characters, because we don't actually want to destroy them. We want to keep their details and display their score and other things like that. We're also going to make some actual improvements to the sudden death today, and I'll go over those as we get into the episode because they're more specific. With that out of the way, we can get started, but before we do, if you're interested in getting caught up in the series, you can check out this iCard in the top right corner right here to check out the entire Super Smash Brothers and Platform Fighter tutorial. You can see where we've done hitboxes, one-way platforms, and a lot more. If you're only interested in sudden death, that's perfectly fine. I do recommend you watch the first episode of sudden death because all these episodes are building on top of each other. I'll link that in this iCard in the top right corner right here. With all that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. This is a code and blueprint tutorial series, but we are going to be focusing mainly in the code today. So we're going to go to our C++. What we want to do is go to our SSB template character.h. In here we have this enum character state, and it describes what the character is doing at the current time, whether they're idle, moving, blocking, whatever. I'm adding a new one today for being eliminated. So we have dead, respawning, victory, and defeat in here. Dead is once the character's been knocked off the map. Respawning is when they are in the process of coming back and they're on their platform. Victory is when they won the match. Defeat is when they lost the match. Eliminated means that they have been kicked out of the match, but the match isn't over yet. They're not defeated. They had the possibility of coming back. Say that you're in a team mode and one character can revive the other if they're out of stock. The character could be eliminated and come back, so I don't want to say they're defeated. They haven't necessarily lost the match yet, but they can't really do anything. So I'm going to make a new value, e_eliminated, and I give it a display name of eliminated. I'm going to make this all caps to be consistent. So basically, this is the state that the character will be in once they run out of stock, or if they're eliminated in a sudden death round. Now let's go to the SSB template game mode.cpp, and let's scroll down to the logic where we have the winner being chosen. That's our determine winner function. In this function, we were determining if the characters tied, and if they did, we were then having them enter sudden death. So we had this for loop where we were looping through all the player scores. We were already starting at index 0, so the for loop was starting at index 1. And we were comparing everyone's scores to determine who should go into sudden death. There's one line I want to add here above this for loop, which is to automatically add the initial index to the tied characters list. This is to fix a bug I encountered, where if none of the characters score any points, then determine winner will function as expected, except player index 0 was never added because we start at index I in the for loop. Normally this would be fine because when checking their scores, if player 1 had the highest score, no characters would be added, and if they didn't, then it wouldn't be a tie. However, if no one scores any points, then everyone should come to sudden death. The first player would not. So if we just automatically add tied characters.add unique and pass in winner index, or 0, this will make sure all the logic works as expected, and will fix up that little bug along the way. Additionally, this isn't required, but something else I want to do in here is default our bool is tied. This is assumed to be false because when you make a default value without a variable, it has a default that gets assigned to it. But I'm going to be explicit about this and just mention it. So bool is tied equals false. There's no tie at the start. So that will just clean up the determine winner function a little bit and solve a bug along the way. Now there's one other thing I want to do in the game mode. So if we scroll down to our enter sudden death function that I was talking about earlier, we had this logic here where we were looping through the players, determining which ones were eligible for sudden death, and then we were triggering their values, moving them to the proper spawn location. However, if they weren't eligible for sudden death, we were actually calling players I destroy. This was doing what we wanted, but again, we may want to keep some other data about the character in the game. We just don't want them to be able to do anything, especially if they can come back, like I mentioned earlier with that team stock example. We don't want to destroy them. So instead, I'm setting them to eliminated. Now, this is a function that we're going to create. Let's go ahead and do that now, and then we'll come back to this. Just know this is the reason we're making this function. Let's go to SSB template character.h and scroll down to our functions. I made this public so I can call it from the game mode, and I put it under prepare for sudden death, but that's not required. You can put it wherever you want as long as you can call it from your game mode. So I'm making a function called void eliminated, and as you can see, the comment says the character has been eliminated from the match, so they can no longer respawn and or is no longer eligible for sudden death. I don't have it as a U function or anything. It doesn't need to be for this episode. Once we make the eliminated function, we can go into our SSB template character.cpp and scroll down to where we want to make this function. I've made it right here. I've made it under my lose life function. So I have void ASSB template character : eliminated. In eliminated, what we do is we update the character state to be E_eliminated, no matter what. Then we want to disable the collision on the character. Character should have no collision anymore because we're treating them as if they're not there. So set actor enable collision, passing in false. This is a default Unreal function. Then we want to make them invisible because we want to disable their collisions, and then we don't want them visible to the player. Set actor hidden in game is true. Lastly, we want to disable the actor's tick. Set actor tick enabled, false. First of all, this is good for performance when we don't need it, but also there might be some logic in tick that we want to avoid doing when they're in the eliminated state. If we just disable the tick function altogether, it will do this while saving that performance that I just mentioned. Now that we have the eliminated function created, we can go back to SSB template game mode.cpp, and we can call this function here instead of calling destroy. So players index I eliminated. Now let's go back to SSB template character.cpp one more time, and let's scroll up to the lose life function right here. In lose life, we have a lot of logic in here determining when we can and can't spawn, who's getting a score for an elimination, and a couple more things. Something we want to add today is to eliminate the player when losing a life under certain conditions. So let's just go down the list here. The first case we have is a standard match and we lose a life. What we call standard is just a timed match. So you technically have unlimited stock until sudden death occurs. And as you can see within this if statement, we were checking to see if it was sudden death. If it's not sudden death, we were allowing the character to respawn. That simple. However, I'm adding this else statement today. So if it is sudden death and we're losing a life, then we don't want this character to be able to respawn. So right now they're eliminated. So else eliminated. Now, if it's not standard or time, we can go to the next match type, which in my case is stock. So else, if it is a stock match, we were reducing the number of lives, updating the HUD, and then determining if the character had any lives left. If they did, allow them to respawn. I'm adding another else statement here because if they don't have enough lives to respawn, then we want to set them to be eliminated. So else eliminated. The character is eliminated and can no longer participate in the match. At this point, we have everything we need to make this system truly work. You could add additional logic to check your character state for eliminated, and if the character is eliminated, don't do certain actions like we do for a lot of our functions. So if I start scrolling through the list, so move right, we only allow them to move right at certain points, such as if they're not blocking, not stunned, not taunting, they haven't won, and they haven't lost. Here would be a perfect spot to add E character state, : E underscore eliminated. And we'll say, and character state equals that. Rather, not equals this. So if the character is not equal to eliminated, then they can continue to do this. So you can add it to move right controller, start jump, stop jump, landed, start crouch, stop crouch, basic attack, special attack, perform recovery, grab, start blocking, stop blocking, not required. Our stop blocking is checking to see if character state is in the blocking state, so we don't need to add anything. Start taunt. Lose life. Again, those checks at the end are not necessary, but you can add them if you want, if you have any reason to do that. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today, so thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope it improved your sudden death. Our sudden death experience is very nearly complete. If you enjoyed and you want to support me, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It shows you when I come out with new episodes, which is every Friday and Sunday, and it really helps me out a lot. I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube membership, Discord supporters, and Patreon members. Thank you guys for all the love. Really grateful for you. If you had any issues with this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. There's a link in the description, and I would be happy to help you. Anyway, guys, like I said, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.